Today we're going to talk about feet, an often overlooked thing on a hiking trip, but probably one of the most important things out there because you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on your feet. And I've suffered from blisters and feet problems for a long time, but I've learned from my mistakes, and hopefully I can share some ideas with you that will help you with some of your trips. I used to get blisters a lot. And 2 summers ago, me and my daughter hiked the JMT in 17 days, and we each had one small blister. And we saw people out there, their feet were just mangled with duct tape everywhere, and they're limping, and there's nothing that can ruin a trip like getting blisters on your, especially early in the trip. So first thing you want to do, first of all, a weekend trip, you can probably get away with it because it's only a 2 or 3 day trip. You get blisters, you can deal with it. But on a long through hike, I mean, if you get blisters at the start, you're going to be miserable for a long time. And it's hard to get those to heal when you're hiking every day without 0 days. So it's really important to prevent them so you don't have to deal with them. So here's some things that work for me. So first thing you want to do, it's funny, I did this in 2014. I hadn't done it in a long time. Go to a reputable shoe store and have your feet measured. I'm in my late 50s now, and I always wore 12s, and they worked fine, but my arches have fallen. So I went to REI and had them measure my feet. That includes width too. And I became a size 13 because of my flat arches. So now I buy 13s, and I've never had a toe blister since. I used to get toe blisters coming down hills because my shoes were too small. They were just too tight. So especially, that's a note about longer trips. If you're doing longer hikes, long days, anything 7-8 miles plus, on a through hike you might be doing 15 to 20 miles. Because of your feet swelling problems during the day, your feet will swell. It's especially important to get shoes maybe a half size bigger. Don't have to. If you know what you're doing and you air your feet out during the day, and control the swelling by airing your feet out and dipping them in cold water, you may be able to get, you don't want to go too big because your feet slide around, but you should know that before you go on your hike because you should have already had those shoes and you should have already been hiking around in them, so you know that those shoes either work or don't work for you. And the shoes and things I'm going to show you here, these work for me. These don't mean they're going to work for you. You're crazy to go on a long distance hike without knowing your shoes and what your feet like. And you actually, a lot of people think you got to condition your body before a trip. You also got to condition your feet. You got to toughen them up, get them used to long days on the trail or just hiking. And so what I like to do, I'll wear my shoes as much as I can that I'm going to take on a trip. I'll wear them to work. I'll do weekend hikes. And you kind of have to simulate it with weight too. Because remember, what you wear on your back or what you have in your gut or your body, that's all going on your feet. So you're putting on a tremendous amount of pressure on your feet. So if you're going on weekend day hikes to try out your boots, load up your day pack pretty heavily to simulate what you're going to be going through on the trail. So first of all, with shoes, I have really bad feet. I've had plantar fasciitis. I currently have really bad osteoarthritis in both of my feet, the tops of my feet. So I have to be more careful with my feet, otherwise they just kill me on trips and it makes my trips unpleasant. So I tend to go with a little heavier shoe than most people would recommend for that reason, because I need a stiffer shank to not put so much pressure on my arches and my feet. So this is the most important thing I'm going to show you in this whole video. Make a note of this. Go get these things and you will thank me. This will make a huge difference. It gives you extra energy because your feet are supported, and it prevents your feet from sliding around your shoes, which prevents blisters. And most importantly, it keeps you from developing things like plantar fasciitis and arthritis. Your average shoe does not have the greatest arch support. This is what I hike the JMT in. I wear these to work a lot too. These are Merrell Moabs. Like I said, they work for me. They might not work for you. But the most important thing you should do this is the insert that comes with this thing. It's just a piece of foam. There's absolutely no arch support on there. It's squishy and it just goes flat. And take these things out of your shoes. Almost every boot will have a removable insert. So first thing you do, get rid of that. And I had plantar fasciitis for a year and it was miserable. I finally had to get injections in my feet, which wasn't fun. I'd just go get a couple injections right before a trip. But I finally had to get orthotics to cure myself. And then I went with Superfeet, which I really like. First of all, when we're doing inserts, squishiness, softness, like gels and all that, that's a bunch of crap. You don't need that. You want it to be hard, actually. The gels don't do anything. You might, because plantar fasciitis, you usually have this horrible heel pain and you think, well, if I get some cushioning in there, no, that doesn't work. That's worse. So Superfeet are very simple. There's a little piece of plastic here that makes an arch, so it's pretty stiff. That's not going to cave in when you walk on it. It's going to stay firm. And the rest is just a thin piece of foam. It's this arch right here. And the reason I'm sold on these, they were like my orthotics I spent $300 on. These are about $40. And they come in 3 different colors. And the colors are, this is the orange, I think this is the medium. There's a green, I forget which is which. Same thing, it's just this plastic thing. And then there's a blue one. And they're all the difference on how much arch support they have. Not on thickness or anything like that, just how much arch support they have. Now, since they're about $40, if you're not familiar with REI garage sales, you should familiarize yourself with those. I don't know if you can tell, these have been trimmed badly by me to fit your shoe. You usually buy them a little bigger and you have to trim them. And I go to REI garage sales all the time, although I wear 13, so it's harder to find these big ones. And people use these, they feel really weird on your feet when you first wear them. Don't throw these in right before a hike. You want to hike on them for a while before you start using them, because they feel weird. It takes your feet a while to get used to them. Feels like you got a big lump under your arch, but that's what it's supposed to do. And so I go to the REI garage sales and look for these, because people wear them for a week and they go, these suck, and they turn them back in. REI has a return policy, anything, no questions asked for a year. So there's always used ones of these at REI, so I always pick them up over there. Now recently with this osteoarthritis, I've needed more arch support. So I've switched to these, which I really like. And even the salespeople are wearing them at REI. These are called Blisters Soles, S-O-L-E. They come in this fancy packaging, and they are $50. So that's what you're going to pay for a pair of shoes. But worth every penny to me. These, unlike the Superfeet, they have I think 3 different versions, and their versions all have the same arch support. You see that arch? These have a higher arch support than the Superfeet, which I need right now. So you youngins might get away with not using this, but it gives you extra springiness and you're not so tired at the end of the day. So give them a shot. These come in 3 sizes, but the arch support exactly the same on all of them. It's just the thickness. There's a real thin version, a medium version, and a thick version. This, believe it or not, is the thickest version. It's not that thick. So, and they also come with actual sizes. This is a size 13. So you don't have to cut them. Usually you don't have to trim them. They just slip right in. So I love them, and they're helping me continue my hiking. So do that even if your feet don't hurt. You will thank me for the rest of your hiking career. Believe me, they have saved me from a lot. So I actually have an outdoor job, right? I work in parks. So I need waterproofness and a little support, because I'm usually digging holes and using a shovel. So I try to get work boots that are similar to my hiking boots. So that helps with my conditioning of my feet. And Keen actually makes a steel toe hiking boot. And these are waterproof. But I went sledding today in the snow, and they soaked in a lot of water. So remember, when you get waterproof boots, that you need to treat them occasionally with something like Nick Wax. So these are in need of a treatment, so they don't soak up so much water. My feet got a little wet in those today. So lesson learned there. So talk about moisture, feet getting wet. That is what it's all about when you're hiking. It's all about moisture control on your feet. You're gonna sweat a lot, so you have to keep your feet dry. If it's snowy, you're gonna be getting your feet wet in a lot of creek crossings, things like that. You'll probably have to use a boot with like a Gore-Tex lining or something like that to keep the water out. But that also keeps the water in. They don't breathe as well, so your feet are gonna sweat. So you're gonna have to manage that sweat and keep your feet dry. Otherwise, that's how you're gonna get blisters. So the other option, rather than getting the Gore-Tex boots, which I like, go with a leather boot. This is a leather boot with a really stiff shank. Way too heavy for a distance hike, but it's waterproof. I can walk right through rivers, and it's great. And find out what works for you. My favorite leather boot that I use early in the spring when there's lots of snow and mud out in the trail. I've had really good luck with these high-tech Altitude 4s. I think they've recently upgraded them to like an Altitude 6, Altitude 4. And they're a cheap leather boot, one-piece leather boot from high-tech. And they retail for around $100, but I find them for like $70 all the time. Amazon usually has them. And they're comfortable right out of the box. And they're a lightweight boot. And I use those usually in the spring. I don't have any right now because they're throwaway boots, I call them. They last for a season or two, and then they wear out because they're real soft leather, which makes them comfortable. So are these. They last for a season or a through hike. You probably can get about 500 miles on a pair of these Merrell Moabs. Now, this is my boot of choice for summer hiking when you're not having to worry about water as much because they're breathable. They're very breathable. So if your feet sweat, there's somewhere for the moisture to go. So it's all about moisture control, like I said, when you're hiking. So that goes down to the socks too. A lot of people try like 2 pairs of socks, a silk liner, and a sock. I have found that just 1 pair of socks works the best. And these are thin socks. These are my summer backpacking sock. In the winter, you might have to use 2 pairs. I usually bring 2 of these, 2 pairs, and I rotate them during the hike. And I'll bring a 3rd pair for sleeping. And the one time I got a blister last year, we had an especially long day. I think it was 18 or 19 miles. We went over Muir Pass. And I just got lazy. My socks were dirty, so I wore my sleeping socks, which were a thicker, lousier sock. And from just putting in a long day, a lot of miles, it was really hot and I was sweating a lot. And I got a little blister between my toes. And it went away after a couple days, but I managed it fine. So these are darn tough socks. And these actually have a lifetime guarantee. But any thin, like wool synthetic sock, obviously not cotton, that will be very bad. But you got to keep them clean. So you can go with low tops. A lot of people hike with low tops. I need the extra support because of my feet being really bad. So like these come in a low top version. Now, if you use a low top, and this is still an issue with high tops, you're going to need to keep dirt out of your boots. So people wear gaiters, or if you're wearing long pants. I hike in shorts and short sleeves and shorts, so I have to worry about dirt getting in my shoes. So I just shake them out now and then. But there's some gaiters called Dirty Girls, and even though they have a woman's name, they work really good. They're like a summer gaiter. They're really short. They're only about this long over the boot, and they just keep the dirt out of your boots. That will save you a lot. So while you're on the trail, before I forget to say this, is in my notes. Before your hike, a lot of people will trim their toenails. This is another thing. Don't do this right before a hike. You'll be miserable. Because what happens is, my toes are gross, but this is a how-to video. See, my toenails are kind of long right now, especially in the big toe. If you trim it real short, as you walk, this will hit right where you trim the nail, and you'll get really irritated there. And that can be horrible. My daughter got an ingrown toenail one year from having too short of nails, and that was kind of miserable. So trim your nails a couple weeks before your hike and let them grow back out. Trim them short a couple weeks before your hike, and then just leave them alone. Unless you're doing like a PCT or AT or something like that, where then just don't over trim your nail. So it's all about conditioning your feet, just like you condition your body. So, and that's one of the things you got to do: keep your nails in good shape. So keep the dirt out, get some good socks and rotate them, and always try to have clean feet. So what happens when you're hiking, and as soon as you feel a hot spot, you got to do something about it. Stop and do something about it. Now, you're not going to get a hot spot when you stop, and I know this takes a while and you want to put in your miles, but whenever you get a chance to stop, whether it's lunch or a long break, take your shoes off and your socks and air out your feet. It'll dry out your socks, it'll dry out your feet. It's the moisture that causes blisters. So what I like to do is try to take a break near a lake or a river whenever possible, and I'll dunk my feet in there. And at that time you can clean them, rub them a little bit, and it makes a world of difference. So if you do have a hot spot, stop and see what's going on. Is there a rock in there? Are your feet are they swelling up? They will swell up during the day. So a couple things you can do about swelling. I take these because I have bad knees too, and it actually helps with my arthritic feet. This is prescription strength naproxen, and I'll take one of those in the morning and one at night. And that helps with your swelling. Your feet swell, it helps your knees, it helps with everything. If you're doing distance hiking and you don't know about taking Advil or Tylenol or naproxen, you probably haven't done a long hike before, because people out there hand that stuff out like candy, because you'll need it. It also helps with altitude sickness a little bit, the headaches and stuff. So the other traditional thing people do with hot spots is Moleskin. I used to use this a lot. I'm not sure if I stopped using it because I stopped getting blisters, but it's kind of a hassle. You have to cut out a square or a circle, and then you cut out a hole where you put it over the hot spot. That keeps like the side of your boot or whatever's irritating your boot from hitting on that spot. But I pretty much go with a Band-Aid or duct tape. But this is important. You got to do this before it turns into a blister. If it turns into a blister, then you probably want to use Moleskin, but I rarely use this anymore. Just throw some duct tape on it, and make sure you don't get any creases on it. It has to be real smooth over your hot spot. So that works really good. And if you do get a blister, at the end of the day, you want to, what do I do with that? Neosporin. Oh, there it is. So at the end of the day, you take your shoes off and your socks off, and you got a blister. Do you want to pop it, or don't you want to pop it? First of all, I want to pop it because it's fun. We have contests, see how far we can squirt or pass. I'm always champion at that. That was when I used to, in the old days, when I had shoes that were too small, I'd get black and blue toenails and pus would be coming out everywhere. But don't have that problem anymore, because I stop and treat my injuries early. So if you have a little blister, if it's like the size of like half the size of a dime, I would just leave it alone. Just pop a little corner of it, and squeeze out the pus as much as you can, and air it out as much as you can around camp. And if I have a bad blister, especially if I pretty much leave it alone. I like to keep mine dry as much as possible. But if it gets real bad and it starts peeling off, it's going to hurt a lot. This stuff is kind of magic. Neosporin. So I might, if I have one of those ones that peels off, I'll rub this right on the blister and put a Band-Aid or something over it to try and keep it clean. And this helps you heal a lot. But once I hit the trail, I like to dry it off. I can clean it, dry it off, put something over it like a Band-Aid, and then put my sock on. And at the end of the day, I'll use this Neosporin. So for popping blisters, this is important too, because you can get a blister infected, and then your trip's going to end. So you want to make sure you're clean. I usually just bring this little cheap plastic knife. It weighs almost nothing. Sometimes I'll bring along another little mini knife kit with tweezers if I'm somewhere where I might get tweezers. So, you know, this is probably gonna have dirt on it. So, you know, a lot of people use the old, you might want to bring a safety pin along for this if you're blister prone. I'll just use my knife. You could heat this on a flame, but then you're gonna have a bunch of, you know, black stuff on here. If you're gonna do that, heat it on the flame, and then make sure your butt wipes, which you're gonna use for other nasty business, but you're gonna have them along, so you may as well use them. Make sure they have alcohol. So then wipe off your blade before using it, and just go to the very edge of your blister, pop a little hole, and you just squeeze everything out, and then just leave it alone and cover it during the day, let it air out during the night, and that works pretty good for me. So when you get into camp at the end of the day, that's your chance to air things out. I bring flip-flops. A lot of people bring Crocs because they have double uses. Crocs can be used for crossing streams as well. So that's the other thing. Should you just walk across a stream and get your feet wet and let them dry out on the trail? I would say no, because that moisture is going to make your feet soft, your skin soft, and then you're going to be prone to blisters. So I usually just barefoot it or use my flip-flops to cross the river. Crocs are great too because they weigh nothing. But as soon as I get into camp, get the boots off, air them out, and you know, just keep your flip-flops on. But you know, be careful, because if you end up tripping or smashing your foot on a rock, that can screw up your trip too. So air out your foot at the end of the day. So the other thing that works great at when you're in camp, that's time to take care of your feet. Go in your flip-flops or Crocs, walk down to the river, and wash your feet. And you can give yourself a little foot massage. And then the other thing that really helps, especially as older folks, is stretching. Even if you haven't developed plantar fasciitis or any other foot problems, it really helps to stretch. And there's a couple exercises that really work well for me. Believe it or not, your Achilles tendon and your hamstrings have a lot to do with your feet. It's all connected. And that's what causes your plantar fasciitis usually. Especially somebody with big calves, it tends to put a lot of strain on your plantar fasciitis on the bottom of your feet. So if you keep that stuff stretched, that'll help a lot. So exercises that stretch your hamstrings are great. One thing that I like to do is get on a step or the edge of a rock and just get your toes on the edge of and just balance on that, and just let your foot go all the way down and stretch your Achilles tendon in your calf. You'll feel it in your calves, and just hold that for about 5-10 seconds on each leg. Alternate it. Do a few of those at the end of the day. You can do that during the day on the trail. That helps a lot. And another one that helps with plantar fasciitis is actually getting your toes stretched this way. You can do it with your hand while you're rubbing your feet. Pull, especially your big toe. You need to stretch your fasciitis, whatever this thing's called in there. And I'm not very flexible anymore. This is a classic plantar fasciitis stretch. You take a towel, you're going to have a bandana probably on the trail, and just stick it around your toes and just pull those back while you're in camp. You want to stretch that arch out. It makes a difference. I never stretched in my youth, and now I hurt because of it. So, and one last thing you can do, I hate to admit I have to use this stuff, like Bengays, and I used to make fun of my friends because I used to play a lot of sports, and the dugout smelled like a freaking doctor's office with Bengay and all these rubs. But I've been trying this Asper cream stuff on my feet. It's just it's a topical applicant to your skin that helps with the pain. I have a lot of pain in my arches, so you people out there with arthritis, you can deal with it, but it's especially important with the arch support things. I've been struggling with it for a few years now, but I still am able to hike a lot. It's just sometimes kind of painful, and I've been getting way too many cortisone injections from my doctor. So I have a foot doctor that I have to go to, so I'll time my appointments my last backpacking trip, I went in a couple days before my trip and had them give me cortisone injections. Probably not a good thing to do. So I'm trying to get this arthritis in control. It looks like it's something I'm going to have to live with. So just deal with it. It's just pain. It's your body telling you there's something wrong with it. But yeah, so here's another tip on if you're through hiking and you're watching this for long hikes. When you're doing 20-mile days, that's the time you're going to get blisters. The longer your days are, the more chance of you getting a blister, because you're pushing too hard, you're not taking breaks to air out your feet, and the longer you're walking with sweaty feet, the more likely you are to get blisters. So 0 days are so important on the trail. And if you have a 0 day and if you're young and strong and you're feeling good, yeah, fine, you can go take a day hike up a mountain or something like that. I used to be able to do that in my youth. I wish I could now. But if you're doing a 2-3 week trip, a 0 day is so important to rest your whole body, and that includes your feet. You gotta rest and let your body rebuild itself. It will. I am constantly amazed. It's one of the things I actually like about backpacking. It's kind of crazy. I enjoy the pain and pushing myself, and your body will repair itself really fast overnight. It's pretty amazing. But there's some days you're gonna just, especially if you're doing a through hike, don't quit your hike if you become really sore or something, you pull something. Try a 0 day, see what happens, and just do the best you can to take care of the issue, whether it be rubbing your feet, getting a partner to rub your feet, do some stretching, soak in some streams. Nothing like a swim in a mountain lake for your whole body, just to relax. And you'd be surprised. So we did the JMT in 17 days and had no 0 days. And I was hurting at the end of the hike. But I got no blisters because I aired out my feet whenever I could. And I had the right shoes, and I had the right size shoe. And I made it. My feet were the least of my problems. Everything else hurt. But again, I wasn't in the greatest shape, but I am amazed at what my old body can do, and you can do it too. But you have to practice, and don't go out on a long trip unless you have gone on a lot of hiking in the equipment you're going to be using with weight on your back. So hope those tips help. If I've forgot something, post a comment, and I'll check those frequently and I'll answer your questions. So happy hiking.